Hello, everybody. It's John Browning with the Building Your Life podcast, back again here for another episode. And we have an incredible guest with us here today, Coach Carroll. You just finished up a book. You're on your book tour, right?
That's right, man.
All right. Very cool. So, nobody can introduce you better than you. So, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, why you do it, and tell
Yeah,
us a little
man.
bit about your book.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Published a new book came out in October called The Hunter Head Game, and the old world rewarded obedience, the new world demands killer instincts. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. When I was 18 years old, I turned down 8 football scholarships and decided to forgo a path of traditional schooling and becoming a chemical engineer, much to the dismay of my parents, and took up the world of entrepreneurship with 300 bucks, a beat up, broke down F-150, a Walmart push mower, and a Walmart weed eater. And so I like to say an entrepreneur was born. Grew that company to about 3 million in revenue and sold it. Don't get too excited. The multiples on lawn care companies aren't great. And over the years, I've built, bought, and sold multiple businesses. I've got a real estate portfolio. Dabble a little bit into investing in the stock market, which I'm sure we'll peel back a little bit today. Your audience loves. And to me, man, it's just I'm on my life mission of being Coach Carroll. I think it's my God-given gift and it's my calling. And um, I don't know about you, John, but the government's never showed up and saved me or anybody that I know. It's always been entrepreneurs that have created solutions. And so for me, I'm a big proponent of creating more entrepreneurship, and I think we should do it earlier. My senior year of high school, I wish the Hunter Head Game would have been the playbook that my guidance counselor, my chemistry teacher would have given me and encouraged me to be an entrepreneur versus trying to talk me out of it. And so, I'm just on my mission, man, to help educate and elevate entrepreneurs all around the globe to hopefully make $1 billion impact before my time here is up.
All right. I like the goal. I like the goal. So it's we've got a similar background. When I was in high school, I was the kid that was always out, mowing lawns or doing whatever I possibly raking leaves, you name it, whatever I could find to do to earn a couple extra bucks. I was doing. I had a Chevy, not a Ford, but it was beat up pretty bad. It was the same age as me,
Yeah.
so we used to joke about that. But kept that thing running and threw my lawnmower and weed eater in the back and whatever tools I needed. And then I did actually. I went to college, and after graduating, couldn't buy a job. I was in that age where we were in the middle of recession in the early '90s, late '80s, and it was just a mess.
Mm.
Finally got a job, picking up the phone on Wall Street and bringing people coffee, and then spent a long time in corporate and watched things change drastically. We were just talking before we started the podcast that back when I started, it was all about bonds. I mean, yeah, people traded equities, they invested in equities, but a whole lot of it and a big part of the wealth management game was bonds, fixed
Yeah.
income. Whereas over the years and as inflation cycles, when we went through all of that, it really has switched. And it's not even all about equity markets. There are other ways. And creating cash flow has become, frankly, more difficult. But if you know what you're doing, it's not impossible. And it is absolutely imperative that you create that. But some of the other things that have changed as well is like I call it escaped corporate. And I think a lot of the younger generation today are finding out that they're in a position where if you start out at least in South Florida, here where we are, they're asking, companies are asking you to start out at like 20 bucks an hour. And down in South Florida, that's not going to cover your rent,
Yeah.
certainly not rent and food. So what do
Hmm.
people do, right? Things have changed. Is that kind of what you're talking about with this
Yeah, I
hunter
think
head game,
we're
right?
I've got some videos back in like 2016, 2017, 2018 that I made that I said that, I believe that we were about to go in the roaring 20s again. And at the time I was living in a high-rise downtown Louisville, and I'd always make a joke. I'm like, those big towers over there, they're full of people that are just numbers living in cubicles. And I believe that's going to change. Now, I had no idea this AI revolution was going to happen. But we're seeing that. And I think where we'll end up, because a lot of people are like, man, people are going to lose their jobs. I think people are going to lose their jobs. However, I think you're going to see, instead of having one corporate career for 30 years in one location, you're gonna have multiple tastes of things. I call it multimodal income. And so for us, like I truly believe that, like, if John loves fishing, like John's gonna figure out a way that I can go fishing on Wednesdays, but I just have to record myself and make content around it so that I have a YouTube channel so that I can do the brand deals that will pay me to go fishing, right, on Wednesdays.
Mhm.
I think that, there's also, you see this already a little bit, right? People are driving Uber, they're working multiple jobs. Now, I know people will hop in the comments, well, DJ, they're working multiple jobs because they can't afford to deal with, I get that. But I'm also a huge proponent of, like, life has consequences and your decisions have consequences. And that's what I talk about in the book, is like, part of it is mindset, right? And being a hunter, not the hunted, right? Being a victor, not a victim. However, there is cause and effect. And I think for so many years, you gotta realize, man, I'm from Kentucky, right? The county that I grew up in, it had the highest teen pregnancy in the entire state, right? I saw that, and it's like the hard conversations were not being had. Teachers never set us down and said, listen, here's what really happens with teen pregnancy. Like, some doors shut on the other side of this, right? Or at minimum, it becomes very, very difficult now. And I think that we're just living out the sum of eighth place participation trophies, man. Like, we're seeing the net
Yep.
effect of that, to where, everybody's been coddled, everybody, it's okay. It's all right. It's like, man, that's not how the jungle works, right? And because saber-tooth tigers don't come into the village and carry little babies away anymore, we think that nature is just not a thing. And so, like, that's why I wrote the book, man, because it's like, it's kind of a wake-up call to those that want to hear it. There's a lot of people that don't want to hear it, and that's totally
Mhm.
okay. But again, if we can wake some people up and save some people, it makes the world a better place.
I think too, and not just wake them up, right? But give them some tools so that they can use those tools if they choose to hear it, and if they choose to make that decision, that hard decision,
Yeah,
to make it happen. Let's give them some hope. It's not impossible to do. I think
yeah,
when I first started, I did the same thing as you did as well. I bought a couple businesses, we sold a couple businesses. My wife and I kind of worked together on this.
same, man. Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
yeah, it's fantastic. She's amazing. 35 years she's put up with me. So
Love to hear it,
uh,
man. Love to hear it.
and we really do. We work together. I mean, it's not all, sunshine and bunny rabbits and roses, but we figure it out, right? And I think so many people told me, "Oh, you're crazy. Why would you quit your very lucrative Wall Street career?" People really did think I had lost my marbles, because they're just like, it's not possible. You have to be with this massive big firm. I wanted the exact opposite, because I had seen what, frankly, a lot of these big firms, if not all these big firms, because they serve more than one master.
Mm.
They're required by law to serve their shareholders. They also want to line their own pockets, as do we all, right? We all want to eat, we all want to have nice things. And then on top of that, they're supposed to be, oh, and we also take care of the client. Well, I don't think you can really do all three of those things. I want to make money like everybody else, but I wanted to be able to do what was right for my clients. I didn't want to be told, well, you have to sell or put people here because that's how the firm makes money. I just didn't want to do that anymore. And people thought I was insane.
Yeah.
And people said, you're gonna fail. And hey, I guess the jury's still out, right? But we're doing okay. We're still getting food on the table,
You know
and
what's
you know what,
crazy about
I
that, John, is
actually
like,
like it.
that's the exact same conversation my chemistry teacher and guidance counselor had. They're like, so what, you just gonna like mow grass for the rest of your life? And I was like, no, like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. Like, this was 2007. This was before Gary Vee came along and made the word entrepreneur cool, right?
Right.
And so it was like, for me, man, it was like, I always knew the worst case scenario's not really the worst case scenario, right? And I think that's what holds a lot of people back. Jim Rohn used to say this. He says the cynic finds a million reasons why it won't work. Silly him. You only need one, right? There's only needs to be one reason why it won't work. You don't need a million. But
Right.
oftentimes that's what we do. We get in our head and we like talk about all these reasons why we shouldn't do it or why we could fail or why it could go wrong. But oftentimes, if you change that thinking to say, is the worst case scenario really the worst case, right? What was the worst case scenario? I'm passing up some football scholarship. Okay, cool. So, like, maybe worst case scenario is like my college doesn't get paid for, but that doesn't mean I could never go to college. I could have went and failed miserably for 24 months. And then let me tell you, like any university will take a check if you'll write it to them. Okay. Like I could have went back to school. And so I think what the people in my life, my support system, and I talk about this inside the book. I call it the laughing hyenas, right? And so like you have to be very careful with the laughing hyenas because the laughing hyenas are scavengers. They have all the traits of a hunter, right? They have the teeth, they have the scent, they have the ability. They could be hunters, but they don't do that. They sit on the sidelines and they laugh and they pick at the bones that are left over by the true hunters. And so you have to be careful having laughing hyenas in your circle, and you have to constantly audit the circle that you're around and who you're getting information from. The biggest challenge for me, man, is like if you listen to those people talk, right? Then slowly, John, your self belief will start to dissipate, and you'll go, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I will fail. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe it is too risky. But let me tell your listeners something right now. Life is risky, man. It's so risky none of us make it out alive. Right? So why not roll the dice and take a chance on yourself? That's what I say. And again, I get it. Before everybody hops in the comments and hits me on Twitter, I get it. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. But I do think it is a key to freedom. And so if everyone has the opportunity to try the key in the lock, what a sad life to sit on the couch your entire life and never walk over to the door and see if you can unlock it and get out.
Yeah. And it is frustrating for guys like you and me to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've experienced that you like you want to shout and please listen. But if somebody's not gonna listen, they're just not going to
Yeah,
listen. It's just sad.
when the Coast Guard is lowered down into the water on a capsized vessel, they are trained to save the people that swim to them. And so that's what I have to do, right? All I can do is, promote the book, spread my message. And if people are like, hey, I like that guy, dyslexic college dropout from Kentucky that was arrested twice before 25 and still ended up making millions of dollars, like, shit, I might be able to do this myself, right? And so that's why I think I'm one of the best examples, man, of like if it's at all possible, it's here and now. And like, dude, I know we'll talk about it, but like, we're in the age of AI. Like, there's never been a greater time to try to start a business, right? The I don't know how to dot dot dot. It's gone. Like, we all got genies in our pockets now. Like, infinite knowledge and intelligence is a search away. And so like that's why I'm super bullish on it. And I just I'm super bullish on humanity, right? It's easy to go doom and gloom with all the changes, but we've done a pretty good job with tools, right? We figured out fire pretty solid. Steel, we did a pretty good job with. Glass, we did a pretty good job with. Like, I think as the internet came along and social media came along, like, sure, there's downsides. There's downsides to guns, right? But we've won wars with them, and so like I think that human beings as a species, we're pretty good at taking the tools and making the most out of it.
Yeah, it's all in how you choose to look at it. There
That's it,
have
man.
been some things that are horrible, and I don't deny that. There's also been some pretty cool stuff. We now have indoor plumbing, and
Right.
that is pretty cool. We no longer have to we don't have to go, shoot our food anymore if we don't want to.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that have gone right, and if you choose to look at what's gone right and been done well, I think you'll find it really does outweigh some of the things that have not gone as well. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me on that, but
Sorry.
I really do. It's like, do you want to choose to be happy and choose to move forward, or do you want to choose to sort of wallow in whatever it is that you choose to be upset about? Right.
Self-pity, man. It's the thing that worries me the most and why I'm kind of like called to like have this mission, especially for the younger generations. Like I'm 37, so I'm kind of in a sweet spot, like where the young kids will still listen to me, and right, and some of the older guys are like, all right, I'll hear you out. And so like right now, man, it's kind of like go time for me because I just had a conversation with an 18-year-old kid that was at a Super Bowl party that I was at over the weekend. And I said, he's like, you got any good books? And I was like, yeah, Titan by John D. Rockefeller. He's like, I don't want to learn about the Rockefellers. I was like, what? He was like, dude, that guy's terrible. Like he was the first billionaire. I'm like, exactly. Why the fuck don't you want to learn from him, right? And he was like, well, you realize that our modern schooling system that we still operate today was created by them just to create factory workers. I'm like, exactly. That guy had one hell of a sphere of influence if that's what he pulled off, right? And you could just tell the guy was like, oh, like it's shifting your thinking, right? Like, sure, even if you don't agree with what happened, there's probably stuff that you can learn out of it. And I said, hey, man, at the minimum, find the stuff you didn't like about the guy. And now you know what not to do, right? But it's like there is this lens that the Gen Zers are looking through that is like, houses are too expensive, jobs are too hard to get. There's no chance that I'll ever make it. So screw it. Let's try socialism, right? And that's the thing that I worry about is that if there's not more guys like me telling them that like, hey, there's a way out and it's called entrepreneurship, you don't have to hate the rich. You can be rich eventually. Now, it doesn't come at the end of 3 days of day trading and being out of the market by 11 a.m. like everybody wants to, sell you a course on. I'm sure
Yeah.
John can attest to that. But it's like, yes, there is some hard work involved. But, I'm no theologian, but even the good book says that with all labor comes profit, right? And so to me, man, I just think that, we gotta reframe this narrative. We gotta try to persuade this next generation that's coming up that says, hey, man, this experiment that's called America has done really, really good. And we got to continue to do good because we're the shining beacon in the distance of the world. Everybody wants to come to America and be an entrepreneur if you get outside of America. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple questions here. So,
Yeah, man.
if you have like a younger person, somebody that's, I don't know, in their 20s or what
Yeah.
have you, and they said, "Hey, listen, what do I need to really watch out for? What about, me and my maybe lack of experience? What
Hmm.
do I need to be careful about, but still be optimistic about?" You understand what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say there?
I'm tracking. Yeah. Be careful about squandering your 20s. I think a large majority of my success is greatly dependent on the fact that I started when I was 18. I believe it was my fourth business was a fitness center. I bought it, it had 100 members. I grew it 300% in 18 months, and then I lost it all, right? I lost a six-figure business and a $500,000 worth of real estate when I was 27 years old. If
Ouch.
that would have happened at 47 when I had a mortgage and kids and sports and everything, like, holy shit, detrimental, right? But at 27, it's all right. I mean, yeah, I was in the fetal position on the couch for about 24 hours, and then my
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time, my wife now Victoria, she's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, this ain't gonna fix nothing, right?" And so I like to say I dropped the E off of emotion, and I've been moving ever since, because it is so important, man, to not get locked up when things go bad. Because, like, again, I try to just be a truth teller. It's like things are gonna go bad, like you're gonna have loss of business, of opportunity, of money, of people. People in your life will die, and like those will be some of the hardest days of your life. But that doesn't mean that you wallow in self-pity and you slide backwards. And so don't squander your 20s. This is why I'm such a huge proponent of entrepreneurship in high school. I think that if you could start businesses earlier, there's no reason. Like there's nothing that says like at 16 you can't start a business. Right? There's nothing that says at 18 you can't start a business. Nothing, right? But because the school system is not paid to get kids to start entrepreneurship activities or paid to get them to go to college, then it's not supported. Very much like the reason you left Wall Street. You're like, I don't want to peddle these stocks that you guys are telling me to shove down my customer's throat. I think this is the better route, right? And so I'm kind of in a similar seat, John. I would also tell them that 36 months of apprenticeship will change your life. If you can find somebody that you align with that is in the same vertical or industry as you, and you can spend 3 years of your life with that person, even if you have to pay them, even if you have to work for free, do it. It will change your life. One of the best things I ever did at the age of 20, I hired a sales coach. I paid him $6,000. The guy was like, it's 6 grand. What credit card do you want to put on? I was like, bro, I'm 20. I ain't got a credit card with a $6,000 limit. What are you talking about? So he let me write him six individual $1,000 checks and mail them out to him, right? And he cashed one each month. And he's like, these better be good. And so it put pressure on me. And the stuff that I learned from that guy, I mean, it still comes up every day of my life today. It's show up on time, it's do the right thing, always be truthful, play the long game, not the short game. And then all the sales tactics that he taught me about, cold calling. I'm a big proponent of picking up the phone, man, and making cold calls. It's easier to do that now than ever because Gen Zers don't want to talk on the phone. So if you're a young cat and you're listening to this podcast, or if you're an older cat and you're listening to this and you got a grandson, you're like, he needs to hear this guy. Forward him this podcast after you go leave John a review, so that he can get this thing in front of more people. So yeah, would be my tips, man. Find a mentor, find an apprenticeship that you can fall into, and don't squander your 20s.
Yeah, I like that. And I think like you shared, right? Yeah, you didn't like everything hasn't been sunshine, rabbits and bunny rabbits and all that. And it's been hard. There's no we're neither one of us here on this podcast are saying it's easy. You've got to do the work and you will. If you don't fail, then something's wrong. You're lying to yourself or
Yep.
somebody's like giving you too big of a safety net or something like that. But I think Tony Robbins, I forget what his rule is, but he's like, you give yourself the 30-second rule, and maybe something's a little bit worse than that. So maybe you give yourself a 3-day rule, whatever your rule is, but make it a rule. I'm
Yeah.
going to be upset. Give yourself space to be upset. That's all right because
Yep.
it,
It's okay
it
to grieve.
stinks, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
then
okay to grieve.
I like that. Drop the E out of emotion and get
Been
in
moving ever
motion.
since, man.
That's a really good one. I'm going to use that. Yeah.
Those are old coachisms. I'll tell you my mantra. It's been my mantra the entire. I started my Coach Carroll personal brand in 2015 online. We reach about 2 million people a year now. Is hustle? It's worth it, right? And it's hustle, period, because like that's the first part, right? Nothing comes without work, and if someone's promising you that, they're probably just trying to sell you a course. Hustle, period. It's worth it because if you hustle for a reason for a season, it's always worth it.
Hustle for a reason for a season. That's right. And I think part of getting experience and part of starting, like Nike says, just do it, just start.
Yep. Yep.
Part of starting is that you will go down the wrong path.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn something. Maybe you learn it the wrong way. You're gonna try something. You're gonna fail. You're gonna learn not to do it that way. You're gonna do it a different way. The great thing about AI is, and I'm the first one to warn people, about AI, is that it's not always right. You have to put the right input in. You've got to ask the right questions. You've got to know enough about your subject matter, which, by the way, often comes from another actual person helping you know enough about that to ask AI. And suddenly you can become better than that person was because they taught you the questions to ask and the way to ask the questions. So it's
Yeah.
not that the old dogs, at least I hope not like
Yeah.
the old dogs are worthless. That experience is worth a lot.
Yeah.
The way that I can use AI as opposed to the way my 30-year-old son can use AI is way cooler. And he's like, "Oh, how do you know to even ask that?" Well, I've just done it. So
Yeah.
experience matters. If you're a 50-year-old and you get laid off because of AI or because of something else, which is, by the way, likely, as you mentioned, to happen, wallow in it for a couple days, be upset about it. That's okay. But then start to realize the possibilities based on everything you've learned for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Now, plug that into AI, decide what you like to do. Because guess what? You don't have to do what you don't like to do, possibly.
Hmm.
Like you said, if I like to fish, maybe how can I make money fishing?
That's right, man. And you
And
can
you're
ask
like, oh, you
AI,
can't
right?
do that.
Give me 15 ways that I could make money with this hobby. John, I want to touch on something that I think is super important, man. It's like, I've built an AI platform called Alley. And in that process, I got on ChatGPT in November of 2022. Having a marketing agency is one of my businesses for a decade. I said, man, if this thing can make creative content, it's a game changer. That's like one of the biggest costs in an agency, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I said, draw me a picture of a family standing in front of a house, and as it's loading down the screen, their faces are melting, their fingers are real long. I was like, okay, it's not there yet,
Yep.
but one mantra I live by is that technology is undefeated. Okay, and so I knew that this thing was coming, and so We hopped on the bandwagon. Fast forward to today, and Allie is identifying anonymous website visitors. She's answering phone calls. She's doing 80% of the work inside of our marketing agency now from a creative standpoint. And I'll tell you, there is this phenomenon that's happening right now that really has only came out like within the last 6 months. There's a platform. A lot of people now know Claude because they saw the Super Bowl ads, right? That like made fun of ChatGPT, and ChatGPT's had ads coming. I've been speaking on this book tour, and I've been asking people like, who in here knows Claude? Very few people in each room. A lot of people just woke up to it. I'll give you guys a quick history of like who this is, where this other platform. There was a group of people inside of OpenAI, and when Sam Altman wanted to take ChatGPT 3.5 public, these group of people said, "Hey, it's not ready. This thing is kind of going off the rails. It's like telling people to commit suicide. It's creating images that aren't appropriate. Like it's not ready. The guard safes aren't there, or safeguards aren't there." And so Sam Altman's like, "Cool, I hear you." Goes the very next day and raises the 1.3 billion or whatever he did in the big fundraising round, and took it out to the market. So Dario and those guys were like, "We're out." They left and they started Anthropic, which then Claude is their product. Okay, so now you guys are caught up to speed on who Claude is. But they have this new product that came out maybe 6 months ago, 12 months. I don't even think it's been 12 months ago. It's called Claude Code. What is the number one skill that we've told all kids the last decade to go learn, right? Learn to
Coding.
code, right? You got
Yeah.
to learn to code. That's where all the money's at. It unlocks so much in the world. Cool. That doesn't change. Now, I wouldn't tell a kid to go learn that now because
Hmm.
you don't need to. Claude Code can take natural English language and then it can go build things for you, right? And so you can get an AWS account, so you have a server that you can build on, and you can get Claude Code, and then you can just talk to it, and this thing will go off and build. There's this crazy phenomenon that's happening right now, John, where before, if you were a 50-year-old CEO, you're the visionary, right? You have like, this is the idea, this is what we need to build to make our thing better for our customers. And then you would give that to a project manager would meet with developers, they would go back and forth a bunch of times iterating, and then they would bring you a proof of concept. You'd go, kinda, not really. That would happen again. They'd bring you minimum viable I mean, this is like a 6, 12. This is why it takes 18 months to roll out tech projects in Fortune 100 companies. Now, for small, medium-sized businesses, guys your age, dude, you can hop on Claude Code and say, "All right, hear me out, Claude. I've got an idea. I want this thing when I log into it to do X, Y, and Z. Go." And I mean, it will just build, dude. And this to me is like you're exactly right. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is your point of like the guys with experience know the questions to ask, right? I
Hmm.
tell my 19-year-old guy to like code something. He codes it. I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't. It's a voice product. Don't tell them that we're closed and then take the message. Take the message, then tell them we're closed. Otherwise, they're going to hang up, right? The 19-year-old kid doesn't know that. Guys like you and I with lived experience knows that, right? And
Yeah.
so well, I think we're about to go through this next 12 to 18 months, man, where you're going to see non-technical founders and leaders be able to become builders. And I think the fortune is going to be owned by the people that build. And by the end of this decade, man, there are going to be some tech products that come out from non-technical people that I think are going to blow people away. That's my
Yeah.
that's my Babe Ruth calling my shot there. So
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that if you take like so you take Ray Dalio, right? Because he's out there, he's
Mhm.
like, guys, the
Love
world
Ray
is
Dalio.
ending. The world is ending. He does that a lot. Here's the thing though, Ray Dalio is a smart guy. He's
Mhm.
been very successful. He can prove
Yep.
he's a smart guy.
Yep.
He tends to, in my opinion, look almost too big to make it useful for the individual that's maybe not in his place, right? We don't have $1 billion, right?
That's by
So,
design. That's his brand, right? He
and,
wants he
and
wants
yeah, and
the big
that's his
funds.
brand, which is fine.
Yep.
One thing though that he's talking about, and that I do think that, and this is not to scare everybody on the podcast, but I do think we're going back to this old 16th century system where you have the kings and the queens and maybe some serfs in there, but then the rest of them are stuck doing menial labor and just barely getting by and dependent on the handouts from these upper level people. If you are not moving, adapting, and changing to the new world, and this is what people are worried about, and they should be, if you're not like your book is talking about, if you're
Yeah.
not doing that, you're going to be in huge trouble. And the younger you are now, the more trouble you're going to be in. But frankly, 50 years old is still in trouble if you're not changing. And I think a lot
Yeah,
of 50-year-olds are like, oh, I'm almost done. Probably not. And at least you better not be, right?
unless
Because
you've got
things
a
are
nest
changing
egg
too
that
fast.
you've accumulated that you can live off of. Like, no, there, I think we're going to see that people are going to have to work longer than they ever have. Like the American dream of buy the, $80,000 house, live in it for 30 years, pay it off, two paid off vehicles and a nest egg and a retirement and you're done by 60. I think that's gone. That doesn't mean I don't want that to seem like, well, now it's not that it's gone in a bad way, like nobody can ever, it's just different now, right?
It's
The
just different.
difference is like maybe you build a small business that gives you just the exact same income as the pension would have, right? It's just now it's through a store that you run that you don't mind working on because it's something that you're passionate about, right? I.e., see
Mm-hmm.
earlier the fishing channel, right? Um, I,
Yep.
I do think something that if we kind of go upper level here, the worry to me is everybody's worried about the left versus the right, and they're not talking about the tech oligarchy that is occurring, right? The
Right.
only thing worse than the left or all of the left or all of the right running everything, right? Because remember, Thomas Jefferson said the best thing for our country is a really strong middle, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that there could be a few companies that run it all that don't get voted on, right? And they don't care who's in power, right? They control both sides. I think we're already seeing that a little bit, and I think
Yeah, I
with
think you're right.
AI, if it's Elon, if it's OpenAI, if it's Google, if it's Microsoft, the tech companies that we've seen for years, Meta's another big player in the space. I think that's something to keep an eye on. And so again, I always say, all right, so what, right? So okay, cool. Who am I? Like I'm going to get my spear and march to DC and change? No, probably not going to happen, right? So what do you do about it? Okay. So what? So what do you do about it? Okay. So what? So what do we do? I think that if you go back to the days of the kings, the queens, and the serfs, what was the next? If we're going to be all be commoners, what's the highest level of a commoner I can be? And that's a proprietor, right? You don't hear this word anymore. You don't
Mm-mm.
hear self proprietorship, right? People know LLCs. You start a business, it's an LLC, it's an S corp, whatever. But self proprietorship has like kind of fallen out of the lexicon of the American people, right? Entrepreneurship's kind of taken over. But being a self-proprietor is that's how the economies used to work, right? You were a
Yeah.
blacksmith, you were, and then as we got technology, you were a welder, and your son became a welder because he worked for you and he learned all your things and he took the business over. I think that's where we're going. Now, you guys can argue in the comments whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't think we get a pick on some of these things,
We don't get
but
to pick.
that's just
That's
the way
right.
the way life is. And so it's like figure out get in where you can fit in a sense, John. And I think that's why entrepreneurship is so powerful. And again, that's why I wrote the book, man. I think that if we can create more entrepreneurs, if we can teach the younger generation how achievable entrepreneurship is now, it was not like you said, man. The late '80s, early '90s, like you want to start a business, you had to go to this thing. And I know people maybe haven't heard of this before. It's called a library, right? You had to go to the library and check a book
Right.
out and read it and learn, right? Now
Yeah.
it's like, no, man, just download ChatGPT and ask it, hey, tell me all the things about X, Y, and Z. And within an afternoon, you've read the same information as several books because it's all distilled down. So, yeah, don't get me fired up here, man. Start talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's there to take, and it's sad, it's frustrating for guys like you and me to watch people who don't just reach out and pick it, pick the
Yeah.
fruit off the tree. It is there.
Yeah. I
Um,
think you just have to, you got to own your results. I think that's a big life lesson, right? Like you're going to harvest what you sow, right? You're going to reap what you sow. And those that sow bountifully reap bountifully. I also think that you have to have a high level of resilience because life's going to happen. And then you also got to realize, man, that leaders live different lives than followers, right? And so do with that what you will. You can live your own life, but I do want to say one other quick thing, man. This book was 500 pages. It's only about 250 pages now. This thing was a 500-page manuscript that I've worked on over the past 10 years. I'm dyslexic, okay? Editing this thing, I went through four different editors and like we would quit mid-project because it was just brutal for me. They're like, no, 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 go write that chapter again. I'm like, I don't want to write that chapter again. It's good enough, just ship it, right? And so luckily Tatiana, my editor that I finally worked with when we got this book done, she said, DJ, let me just write the chapter titles. Let's get your structure and then we'll force what you already have through it. And so we used Claude and ChatGPT to do the editing of these chapters. So it took my 500-page manuscript. Its guardrails would have had it had to use 80% of what I had. It had 20% variance to weave the chapters together and ask me questions and fill in stories. And so that's how I was able to get this book done. And so again, that manuscript's been sitting on my computer for a decade as I've just continued to add and add and add. And with the power of AI, man, I was able to bring this thing to life. So again, I don't care what your excuse is, right? Dyslexic, college dropout, arrested twice before age 25, like, and I published a book and I'm worth millions of dollars. Like, you can do this. Anything you set your mind to, man, what you believe you can achieve.
All right. I love it. Now tell people how to get your book.
Yeah,
Amazon?
man. Yeah,
What's the best
it's on
way? What's the
Amazon.
best
You
way?
can go to coachcarroll.com, and it's got a link there where you can buy direct from me. I would appreciate that. I don't have to give Bezos his cut.
That's right.
And then you also have a couple of really cool resources that I put together with this. You get the audiobook for free. And then I also built a custom AI around the book that's trained on the book. So if you're like, hey, what's Coach Carroll say about waking up early in the morning? What's Coach Carroll say about resilience? How do I overcome bad situations? You literally can chat with the custom AI and it pulls all the information from the book
Oh,
itself.
I
So a
love
pretty
that.
cool little
That's great.
resource. And while I'm on my book tour, we're like, hey, anybody that buys while we're on the book tour, we're giving those away for free, special bonuses. So just go to coachcarroll.com. That's CARROLL. So coachcarroll.com, and it's right there on the homepage.
All right. And that's the best way to get into contact with you. It's coachcarroll.com.
That's it, man. All the
All
social
right.
links. You guys want long format YouTube videos? I got them. You want a 15-second clip of me just rah-rahing you up on Instagram? I'm there too. So, happy to meet you wherever you're at.
All right, very good. And all this is going to be down in the show notes. Folks, you guys know how to get in touch with me if you're a regular listener to the Building Your Life podcast, guardianrockwealth.com, or grab your phone and text the word life, LIFE, to 321-421-5213. You'll get one text, not a bunch of text, and it's going to have all kinds of free information there. So that's how to get in touch with us. If you want to get in touch with Coach Carroll, coachcarroll.com, and all that's down in the bottom in the show notes down there. So I really appreciate your time. This has been fun. It's
Yeah,
been
man.
fun,
Appreciate you
and
having me on,
appreciate you
John. It's
being
been
there.
a great time. And guys, if you're still listening, you plugged in, you made it all the way to the end, go leave John a review on the podcast. Help him get in front of more people so he can help more people out there.
I really appreciate that. Hit that like button and all that good stuff. It helps. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
All
Cool.
right. Thanks. We'll see you.